Hello, my name's Rebecca.
And I'm Steve.
And today we are joined by a very special guest. We have Guy from How to Be a Great GM.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
We're doing really well. This is very exciting for us both. I know that we have interviewed some people who are in the community and that I've been very excited about, but this one I was just blown away that we got you. I'm so ecstatic already.
Well, I'll try and live up to those expectations.
There's no way that you won't. Your videos have been so poignant and so important in me growing as a DM or as a GM and as a player that I can't imagine that this will be anything but wonderful.
Well, let's hope so.
So just to jump right in, how did you get started playing TTRPGs? It's just a fun get-to-know-you question.
Sure. I got into it because there was someone who I very much admired in school, and basically I wanted to impress them. So they were busy playing, and I decided that was something that I wanted to do. So I said to them, hey, what are you doing? Because I saw them filling out a character sheet. And they said, oh, it's nothing, you wouldn't understand it. And I said, well, try me. And so we got into role-playing that way. And that was a very, very long time ago, as they say.
Oh, goodness. What game was it?
That was Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. And it was because 2nd edition was kind of new at the time. So that's how long ago it was. And we played that for a little bit, and then we actually went backwards and we played Advanced Dungeons & Dragons out of the red box. Sometimes you'll hear very old role players talk about the red box of Dungeons & Dragons. And I raised my hand. I did the red box and the blue box, and it was fun to get thrown out of school libraries and stuff because you're making too much noise. But anyway, yeah, so that's where it all started.
Are you still in contact with that person? Do you get to be like, now who doesn't know anything about D&D? Do you get to brag about being so big in the community?
Well, we're still friends, but he decided to grow up and have children and get married and be the sensible one.
Shame.
But as a matter of fact, from that original group, I am happy to say that there is one of the players whom I will be playing with on the 13th of November again. So we obviously we're still in contact, all of us, but at least two of us still haven't grown up yet.
Well, good. Don't grow up.
Exactly.
It's overrated. It's so overrated.
It's a trap.
It is.
So what made you decide to take that transition from just playing games to actually starting a YouTube channel?
I think that for me, it wasn't so much of a decision as a means to solving a problem. And the problem was I used to compete in GMing in the local conventions that we used to have. Now, this is in South Africa, and in South Africa, we're very isolated from the rest of the gaming community. In those days, it was because the internet was still new, but also because it was a very specialist hobby to get into. So we had this very solid community, and kind of if you were a role player and you went to the conventions, everybody knew everybody, even from across the entire country. And so they would have competitive GMing where you'd get scored based on your NPC impersonations, on your story, on your pacing, on your narrative, how you handle the table and that kind of stuff. And I attended the convention for the first time. I think this was about 2010. And it had been running for 20 years before that. But from 2010 to 2013, I won every single year the title of the best GM for that year. And the first time around, I thought, okay, well, it's novelty factor because I was kind of new to that established community because it was in a major city, it was in the biggest city in the country. And, So I thought, okay, well, it's a novelty factor. And the second year it was like, okay, it's a bit of a fluke. Or the third year it was like, okay, this is a bit crazy now. And in the fourth year, as I was signing up to participate, one of the other young GMs who I had always heard good things of arrived, looked and went, "Oh, are you competing this year?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And they said, "Okay, well, then there's no point in me signing up because I can't beat you."
Oh my goodness.
And I immediately resigned from the competition. I went, right, that's it. I am done. I retired from being a competitive GM because I went, that's not the point of role-playing. We role-play because we want to have fun. We role-play because we want to do this because it allows us to explore, different worlds and fantasy and escape from the realities and the pressures of real life. If I am imposing some kind of strange thing on that's insane. I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I also have never felt that I was a particularly remarkable GM. I just run my games and I tell my stories and let my players tell their stories, and that's kind of it. So I went, well, what is it? What is the fundamental difference between the way that I run my games and the way that other people run their games? And so that was really awesome, seeing an opportunity there to try and explore my hobby more. I then made 2 videos, I think it was, and I put those up onto YouTube, and my fellows in the community, they all dutifully watched them and said, yeah, they're pretty good. That makes sense. Then after it was quite a long time. I forget now the actual duration. It was for a couple of months at least. Someone on Reddit then posted up one of the videos, and the whole channel went viral and overnight picked up 2,500 subscribers, quite literally overnight. And people were asking for more. They said, well, when's the next one coming out? When's the next one coming out? And so that then motivated me to make a third one. And a lot of stuff was going on in my life at that stage. And so the third one came out. We didn't do very much after that. And then people kept asking for more. And then the fourth one came out. And I think from about the fourth or fifth one, that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to make this thing on a regular basis. And by that stage, my work colleague and I had decided, okay, let's actually look at this from a production perspective. He would handle like social media and that sort of thing, and I do all of the videos, and that's kind of where it started. But it was still never intended to be anything on a large scale. It was just meant to be for us to have some fun, to make some videos, and to help people run their game better. But
now you have a Kickstarter coming out for it's ending here in about 2 weeks?
Yeah, it comes to a official end on the 28th of October this year.
Yes.
So I thought it was 15 days. Yes, that's right, 15 days.
So That's exciting. I was looking at that the other day and was like, can I fit it into my budget?
Yeah. It is super, super exciting. And it is the embodiment of the YouTube channel. So instead of watching maybe 500 videos or so, you can now just read the one book.
No, watch the 500 videos. That is, it is worth every minute of it.
Well, that is sadly, yes, not everything in those videos is in the book, because otherwise the book would be just gigantic. I mean, as it is, the book is at a point where there's some awful realities that come into play when you are writing a book, and the bothersome one for me is that I have a business partner whom is going, it's great that you're writing this book, but you have to stop writing, because the more you write, the heavier the book gets, and that makes it more expensive to ship. And so you need to wrap it up now. Use less words. So yeah, but that is doing exceptionally well. We did not expect it to do as well as it has done thus far. And what's been really exciting is that we've managed to piggyback an upgrade to our very first book that we wrote in 2018. I wrote that, I did all the artwork for it, and I did the layout for it. And I was never happy with the layout because I had done it myself. So within this Kickstarter, you can now get the latest book, which is The Practical Guide to Becoming a Great GM, And then you're going to be able to get an add-on of the original book, which is the complete guide to epic campaigns, to creating epic campaigns. So that's super exciting. So you'll be able to, if you want to, get both books basically in a single Kickstarter. So we didn't see that coming. But again, just super, super excited. And, you know, the most rewarding thing that you can get when, as far as I'm concerned, when you are putting yourself out there and offering advice to people, is to hear people coming back to you saying, you made a difference. My games are better. I have more fun. I enjoy my games. I've gone back to role playing, or I've now taken on the mantle of being a GM because of the confidence your videos gave me, that sort of thing. And with the books, it's exactly the same. People say, oh, I read the book. The book really helped me. I'm now running my group, is having so much more fun, or this. And that really is the biggest reward, is hearing that kind of feedback.
So I'm about to they gush that. I do apologize.
That's okay.
I started listening to your videos. I had moved into a different area from West Virginia. I'd lived in New Jersey for a while, in Philadelphia. I'd made friends. I'd moved. And then when I came back, I was like, I'd really like to reach out to people. I don't know 5th edition very well. Maybe I should start playing with people. And then I got very self-conscious, and I was like, what if I'm bad? What if I'm not good?
Right.
And so I started watching your videos on how to be a good player, how to be a good GM, and then how to do better accents. And from there, it stuck with me. But one of them in particular, I remember distinctly introducing another player to, was how to create a good name for your D&D character. And I believe it was, what was it? It wasn't on the main channel. I think it was the other one.
Right, yes.
Board Goblins.
That's changed quite a few times, that channel. Yeah.
And so he had wanted to play this character, and the character had a name that was problematic. It was a slightly vulgar, and then on top of that, it would just constantly be like a funny joke, haha, and take everyone out of everything. And so I sat down with him, and I went through your video, and I was like, look, we can work on this. We can make it something good that you can still enjoy, still has the same meaning underneath it, but it doesn't have to just immediately turn stomachs every single time it comes up. Please, let's work on this. And he did, and it changed the way that he viewed them, and he started working on all of his characters like that, and thinking about how to make things better, and how to make things more exciting, and how to just spend that extra time. And I love it. I love that one video can change the trajectory of a player entirely.
Absolutely. But what I really applaud is, A, you wanted to improve the game. B, you didn't say, no, that name is unacceptable, try again. You worked with that person.
Well, so he wanted to do a character from a game that he had played countless times before with other people as a goof around character, and he was like, I want to have visions of the year 2000 and Y2K, this impending apocalypse that has nothing to do with Eberron setting. And I was like, fine, it's not going to hurt the game. You want to be silly, I'll let you be silly. And then he was like, I want this. And I was like, okay, that's fine. It's not game breaking. It has nothing to do with mechanics. You can just be off. But the name, like, it wasn't even that bad, but it would have broken the flow of things. Exactly. Even if you're an odd character, having that off name, it's not going to make it fun for everyone else. To be like, oh, well, you know, why is his name like Butt? That's a terrible name. Yes. And then everyone has to introduce you as that. And I was like, I want you to not interrupt other people's games, but still get that satisfaction out of it. And man, let me tell you, that just, I still think about that all the time.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, that's brilliant. And again, it's about working together to have a better and happier experience. And I think that story just encapsulates that completely.
Do you have, I know that you have also enjoyed them. Of course I'm going to gush. This is like one of the dream ones here. There's interviews you get to enjoy, and we've done, like I said, we've done several with like Runesmith and Davy Chappie, and I was really excited about those, but this is a different level of excitement. This is like, my very core is just vibrating with excitement.
For me, I loved all of your campaign setting building videos. I at one point in my life binged every single one that you had. which took up many hours of
I'm sure
my youth.
If that's the case, why are you not a better GM?
Oh, wow.
I'm kidding.
Wow.
No, I really enjoyed your world. The time that you spent building it, it really showed that you had a lot of influence from very positive aspects. You had a lot of rich history in such a small world.
Thank you.
well, there you go. Yeah.
Let's move on. We've got more questions.
No, can we just gush about before we jump to one of the other questions, since we are talking about the role-playing games, is there any games in particular that you would recommend for people that is outside of D&D?
There are a few, actually. And I think, again, it's about trying to decide which one is appropriate for different people. My current boyfriend, when we first met, he was not a D&D player. He's never played D&D, but he wanted to get into role-playing. So I started explaining the rules to him, and he kind of went, "Oh, it sounds very complex, and there's lots to know, and there's lots of pressure, and he doesn't want to slow down the game for everybody else, and that sort of thing. Isn't there just a role-playing game where the answer is yes or no? So it's a lot simpler." And I went, "Well, there isn't, because you need a whole bunch of things in order to make a role-playing game exciting and that sort of thing. But I'm not someone who backs away from a challenge like that. And so I ended up writing a role-playing game where the answer is yes or no. And finding a mechanic which makes that game actually work quite well. To the point that we released the first version. It's called Bounty Hunter. And the plan was to release the second book in Bounty Hunter at the end of this year, but with the success of this current Kickstarter, there's just no time for me to write the additional rules. We wanted to expand out on it and develop it further because people have responded so well to that. So when I look at role-playing games outside of Dungeons & Dragons, I always advise people, look for something that is different. So don't look at something like the Modiphius range, which is 2d20. Yes, it has a different fundamental mechanic. You roll 2d20 and you're combining skills and attributes to create the master total. Look for something very different. Look at something like Call of Cthulhu, which is a percentile system, or look at the Alien RPG from Free League, which is D6s, and you're adding D6s to your character as you get more stressed. Try and look for systems that are very far removed from what you're used to playing, just because it will give you such a different experience. I'll never forget a very good friend of mine, Michael Kesevan. He's known as the Dead Aussie Gamer. He is a huge proponent of a role-playing game called Through the Breach, which uses playing cards as your random generator. So you're not drawing from the same deck either. You build a card deck based on your character build, and then you're drawing from that card deck specifically. So that's a very different kind of mechanic that you can then play around with. And fundamentally, this is something that I love about role-playing, is it does not matter what rule system you're playing. Role-playing is still exactly the same. Whether you're rolling dice or drawing cards or using yes or no, role-playing still remains the same. You're playing a character, and the character's experiencing and reacting to the world space that they're in. So the mechanics, therefore, then have to just help you to do that better. So that's why if you play something that's very different from Dungeons & Dragons, you can look at a mechanic and go, this doesn't help me roleplay better. As a matter of fact, this gets in the way of my role-playing. It's way too heavy, or it's too this, or it's too that. And I mean, I have found some role-playing games where there is so much fan pressure to play the game in a certain way that I don't want to play it because it gets in the way of my role-playing. The mechanics are fine. They're a little bit complicated, but the fans have so much intensity in terms of how you have to play their game that I kind of go, well, I don't want to play your game. So that would be my suggestion on people looking at different role-playing games.
I think that going outside of just like the D20 systems is is brilliant. I always talk about it in OOCs, so I have to talk about it now.
They're secretly paying you.
I really wish.
I want to know where this money's coming
absolutely
from. I'm going to have to ask questions.
The Story Brewers is a company that makes an RPG called Good Society, which is a randomless storytelling Regency Jane Austen RPG, and it is so outside of what so many people think a tabletop RPG is, and it's absolutely wonderful. And I always suggest it to everyone because it's amazing and everyone should play it.
The Good Society, is it?
Yes, Good Society, a Jane Austen RPG.
They actually have another one that's in Kickstarter right now, where it is wrestling, right?
No, it's
oh no, sports anime. Sports anime.
It's a sports anime RPG. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but that one uses decks of cards for its random generator.
See, I would have never thought of decks of cards, although back in the day when I played Gamma World, they had like loot decks where you would draw from that and build your loot. That was pretty neat. That's something I'd like to see brought back into a setting, although I think it's just, a money grab at that point.
For Gamma World, it was.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It definitely was.
The sports anime is called Fight with Spirit.
Fight with Spirit.
Okay. RPG. Yeah.
I have to say, you have to love Jane Austen. Whether you have read anything or watched something, you look at Jane Austen, it's like a Jane Austen RPG. I'm like, of all of the RPGs out there, Jane Austen does not immediately leap to mind. But then there was that film, Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Yep.
And you go, so actually, hang on a moment, you could pull that back so that you have Mr. Darcy fighting against zombies and that sort of thing. Anyway, I absolutely love role-playing games for what they allow us to do as humans. And I will never forget, I went to a convention in Tampere in Finland. And whilst we were there, Tampere is this little hub of computer game creating companies. There are so many little computer game manufacturing companies in this little town that the museum is quite progressive there. And while we were there, they actually opened up a dedicated exhibit just to role-playing games, just to tabletop role-playing games specifically.
What? That is
crazy.
And
it was phenomenal. They had original copies of like Gary Gygax's original Chainmail RPG, and they'd really done a phenomenal work in creating this museum piece. And I was chatting to the curator, and they were saying, well, just in Finland alone, the Finns since the 1970s have written over 350 officially published role-playing games. So these are not role-playing games that people have written at home on a piece of paper and kind of used a little bit. These are role-playing games that people have written, they've typed up in some shape, form, or other, and then they have distributed commercially to other players. And you go, just in Finland, 350 different role-playing games. It boggles the mind. Of course, today we have so many different role-playing games coming out. It does beg the question, are we buying new role-playing games, or are we just buying settings books disguised as role-playing games, really? Have we run out of mechanics? And I don't know. I look at it and I go, well, I thought that there would be a lot of role-playing games that use yes or no as a solution, and the last official one was released originally in the 1980s. So you go, okay, we've still got some more space to explore. But just how wonderful is that we do still have almost an infinite number of options left. It's really exciting, I think.
It is. I think that no matter where you turn, you can always find a new RPG, be it just like short one-page RPGs or big, long volumes and volumes of huge.
And even if you don't like the system, there are still some RPGs that have like one or two mechanics. The Pugmires, like I was not a fan of the Pugmire system, but in that the initiative is whoever gets first initiative picks who goes next. And that way you have to mentally choose whether it's you're stacking it for your side or you're letting all the villains go, and you have to be very methodical. That was a very different way of doing things. And I love those mechanics. I get so excited about something crazy, something different, something new.
I do like that. My immediate my internal RPG builder suddenly goes, but how does that work thematically? How does that how would you express that within a role-playing context that you're choosing who goes next? Or is it just a case of saying, there is no way of thematically expressing it. This is just the mechanic of the game. Shut up, sit down, and take your turn when I tell you.
I don't think that they planned it to be thematic, unfortunately. I think it's more of a mechanical only on that side. But sometimes it allows you to think about who should be next in combat, and then if you give it to the villains last, that's fine, but then the villains get to choose who starts the next initiative, and that means it can go real bad for you real quick. And it was fun. It was just something a little different.
I always thought it was kind of like pack tactics, because you're playing a bunch of dogs.
That actually would make sense. Yeah. My goodness.
Pack tactics. Look at that. There we go. You see, so we find insight when we start asking questions, which I think is brilliant. I do also think that there is nothing wrong with a game within a game. And if you look at it where you're going, okay, the players are tactically choosing which of the player characters are going to act first, or the NPCs are going to act first. So they're playing a tactical game. And then underneath that is the actual PCs, and they are role playing, they're being role played and that sort of thing. So as an exercise of mental gymnastics, your players are playing one game whilst also trying to role play as if they're not in a game type of thing. I think sometimes that can work really well. I do think sometimes, of course, then that steps in and you end up with players who are just playing a tactical game and then not playing a role-playing game. Yeah. Which I think defeats the object as well, sadly. So
I think we just had a really good... So we had an RPG discovery where we would just try different systems. And so we had a nice balance of players when we were doing that. And I think we just got lucky.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone was really mechanically minded or...
No. I mean, we played our different RPGs to enjoy different RPGs.
Yeah, I think that was... I was going to say something else about the RPGs, and I don't remember what it was.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
That's all right. I do that sometimes.
Yeah. Should we move on to the other actual questions that we have written down?
I mean, we can. I remembered what it was. I was going to say about how we've been using different mechanics from different games and then importing them into the setting that we like. That's been my favorite thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Playing Good Society in Sharn and in Eberron instead of putting it in Regency. Mm-hmm. Just using the world that we really like and then the mechanics that we really like. That was all. Okay, I apologize. Let's do the actual questions.
Yeah, so with our podcast, we brought something that didn't exist into the campaign setting of Eberron. We brought radio to Eberron. What would be something that you would bring to a fantasy setting that doesn't typically exist in one?
I have a device which I call an Arcanagram. And an Arcanagram is effectively a mobile phone or a cellular phone, depending on what you call them. Because I got tired of my players either sending 10,000 messages to one another quietly. It's like, yes, I understand that it's a cantrip or, it's this or that. But I just had these visions of all of these characters standing in the hall looking at the king, but with blank expressions on their faces because they're all counting 25-word limits. I'm like, we don't need old-fashioned Twitter within role-playing. So, but also what used to happen was the players would go off on a mission, and then they really need just one useful piece of information from whoever gave them the mission or from someone important, and they wouldn't be able to get it, and it often would stump them. So the Arcanagram is two black discs which are linked together. And if you hold that black disc in your hand and it comes into contact with skin, you are immediately linked to the person holding the other disc, and you see them as a arcane representation in front of you, basically as a hologram. You see where they are standing, they see where you're standing, and it's not sort of a Star Trek-like idea where somehow the villain doesn't get to see the background and the reaction of everyone in the background. You get to see basically what you would see if you were standing in that room next to them. So you can kind of look around the space and see where they're standing and that sort of thing, so that it doesn't get abused too much by the players. If they taunt a villain, the villain will see where they're standing. They will obviously also see where the villain is standing. So that gives me an opportunity as a storyteller to ramp up the tension. But yeah, so they have arcanagrams, which they get, and they usually only get one per party, because by limiting it, it creates a sort of a tension. Who has the stone? Where is it? Has it been stolen? And who can communicate with whomever it is that the stone is linked with? So yeah, I use them. I've never used radio before, I must admit. I think that's quite a cool idea. And then mass transit airships and air whales. Those are another ones that I love to include in my games, just because getting around the planet by horse is very boring.
Yeah, it is.
I think it's much more fun if you can have a battle on the back of a giant whale that's transporting 100 peasants and several sheep and that sort of thing. I think that makes it much more fun.
I like the idea of like sky leviathans, like whales in the sky, stuff like that. Because the setting that we normally work in, Eberron, has very iconically airships,
lightning rails as well,
and trains. But just the image of like sky whales.
I don't want like sky. That scares me. I don't know, mentally that bothers me for some reason. The idea of giant things in the sky freaks me out.
Cloud squids?
Nope. No, thank you.
No.
Nope.
I had the best character death I have ever experienced because of a sky whale. I had a bunch of players who had a sky whale. I forget what her name was now, and she was transporting 40 tons of beans as cargo. And the party had split up because that's what they like to do.
Indeed.
And one half of the party, well, actually, the majority of the party were fighting the big bad. They were fighting the big bad prematurely in terms of their expectations. They were very low level and the big bad was very high level. And instead of seeing the big bad and retreating or treating the big bad with caution, they decided it would be better to attack. Although that does seem like they had a coordinated plan on that. One of them walked up to the big bad. The others thought they were attacking, so they decided to attack, which caused the one who was not going to attack to actually attack. Anyway, it's the usual kind of party shenanigans, and they very quickly realized that they were in a losing end here, and they got hold of the only PC who was left, not involved in the fight, who was on board the Skywell, and said, "We're in trouble, we need help." And so the PC decided, okay, I'm going to take the Skywell. So he takes the Skywell up into the air. Well, it was already in the air, but he takes it up above the tower that they're busy fighting on. And he goes, I open up all the boxes of beans. I went, okay, sure. You start prying open the boxes of beans. It's going to take you a few rounds. And the players down below are being... It was a white dragon that they were fighting. I think they were being frozen and their HP was dropping and they were having to make death saving throws, and it was absolutely going pear-shaped. And the player eventually said, okay, have I opened up all the boxes of beans? I said, yes, you have. So he said, great. I turned the whale over and dropped 40 tons of beans on top of the white dragon and all of my fellow PCs down there. Yeah. So one of my favorite things is when everyone turns to look at the GM and goes, okay, smart pants, how do you work out how much damage 40 tons of beans is going to do to a white dragon? So it was spectacular. Most of them died, I think. 2 of them survived, barely. The dragon did not. It died. Because it was like, well, it's 40 tons dropped from, what, how many? 400 feet above. So, yeah. Anyway, super cool thing. So there we go.
That's so beautiful.
I like to imagine just the dragon being like, is it raining? And
yes,
just a
absolutely.
few little...
Yeah, 1 or 2 beans. Yeah, it was glorious.
Beans fall, you die.
And see, I think that's what scares me most about like sky whales, the idea that not only are they transporting stuff and all that stuff can fall, but then just suddenly like, what if the whale just stops? Like, what if
tragedy strikes?
So let's say tragedy strikes, yes, and the whale unfortunately dies midair. What happens then? That is a nightmare. I can't. No, hell no.
It's like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You know, you just get the fallen whale.
Yeah. Drop whales, I guess.
Drop whales.
Anyway.
Okay, if you could cast any spell from any edition of any RPG that you love, what spell would it be?
That would definitely be Time Stop. I don't have enough time. I'm one of those creators where I go, I'm currently 41 years old, so probably got another 60 years left in me if I'm lucky, if I kind of push it and hope that medical science kind of catches up a little bit. So that's only 60 years to create stuff. That's not enough time. I need more. I need like 3 times that much with all the stories and games that I still have and want to run and experience. So Time Stop, without a doubt. I need Time Stop. If I could have 5 Mondays every week, I would be ecstatic.
That's a really good answer.
I like that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think we've had that one before.
No,
We've gotten Prestidigitation and a few others,
So
but
many
man,
times.
Time Stop.
Yeah.
But if you go through all those Mondays, does that speed things up? Do you hit like 42 very quickly?
Yeah.
No, because it's just your Monday just lasts 5 times longer, right? Doesn't it? Or maybe I've made the ultimate mistake. You see what happens when you just answer a wish without thinking too clearly? Suddenly it's like, yeah, you thought you had 80 years, but you do. You have 80 years in a single day, and then you die. It's like, no!
Your work gets done very quickly, according to everyone else.
Yes.
But is that a new wrinkle?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
To be honest, though, if I could have like an extra 2 or 3 days a week just to sleep, I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
I don't know. See, adding more time just means I'm going to get less done because
you're gonna procrastinate.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've got more. I can just put it off. I've got Time Stop now. It'll be fine. I'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, that's definitely a risk. Definitely a risk.
Well, this is Monday 44. I'll take another Monday. It'll be fine. We'll do one more Monday, and then we'll give it a shot.
Just to see. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think they missed that opportunity in Groundhog Day, that Bill Murray film. It's like, what did he do the first 20,000 Mondays? Slept, nothing, tried to do something, but distracted himself, so he didn't do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that gets me excited. I absolutely love the time travel, or sorry, not the time travel,
loops.
The time loops. Those are the second you start thinking about that, all the possibilities just to get one good day. Absolutely.
So Steve,
I can absolutely I can do this part. So we have started trying to add more random and fun questions to our interviews, and in doing so, we have created lists of 13 questions. Why 13? I don't know. But we're calling them Baker's Dozens questions. So they are rapid fire questions because we got to get them hot, quick as possible. Got to get these Baker's Dozen out of here as quick as we can. I had it written up somewhere, and we didn't transfer over the write up part. I can tell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was like, oh yeah, because I had like what did I call it? I said
I don't know.
I don't remember. It doesn't matter. So the point of these questions is just to just the first thing that pops into your head, your favorite of a thing, and then we'll move right on down the list. So we've chosen to go with classes today. So all of them are based on traditional D&D classes. The first one is Artificer, and that question is,
what is your favorite hobby?
The favorite hobby of an artificer is collecting stamps because they don't move. Oh my goodness, so much silence. I know it was a terrible answer, but you said rapid fire. What came to my head?
No,
it's like stamps because they don't move. I don't know.
I'm just like, oh my goodness.
Thinking about that for a second. Okay, what is your favorite band?
Oh, so Bard. Yes. What is your favorite band?
See, now I'm thinking too hard because I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't have that silence happen again.
No. So I was thinking about stamps because anytime stamps are brought up, I'm like, Terry Pratchett. That's just immediately where my brain goes.
Right. Well, it should. It's a good place to go. Absolutely.
And so I was trying to think of like, oh, what do I say? Do I mention Royce von Lipwig? Do I bring up that reference? If I bring up that reference and no one has any idea what I'm talking about, What do I do then?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you. So what is a bard's favorite band?
No. So the bard question is, what is your favorite band?
Oh, my favorite band has got to be Tchaikovsky and his orchestra.
Beautiful.
Which, I don't listen to modern day music, unfortunately.
Tchaikovsky's got some amazing compositions. I love to listen to. I'm pretty sure it's Tchaikovsky. His cello solos.
Sure, absolutely. I listen when I write. I listen to music, and if it has lyrics in it that I can understand, I then just start listening to the lyrics and thinking about the lyrics. So I often listen to either classical music or movie soundtracks. Movie soundtracks is quite useful because then you can use that in your role-playing game as well, if you find something that's really evocative. But anyway, there we go. This is supposed to be fun answers. So. Sorry.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Faster question, Steve. Come on. Jump to the next one. So, Barbarian. Our Barbarian question is, what is your favorite sport?
Curling.
Curling. Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one. Cleric, what is your favorite god or goddess from fiction or reality?
I believe that would be Hades. Gotta love Hades.
Gotta love Hades.
Yeah, a lot of love for Hades. Yeah. Hades is a very good one. Druid, what is your favorite flower?
Frangipani.
I'm not familiar with Frangipani.
I don't really know what it looks like either. I just loved saying it.
I mean, that's a great reason.
Like a trumpet-like flower, but
we have a photo. They are beautiful. Oh my goodness.
They come in yellow or pink and grow on a tree.
There you go. But they're just amazing to say. Frangipani.
Frangipani.
It's a good one.
It's a good word.
All right, fighter. What is your favorite weapon?
Tank.
It's a good
Fuck, that's a real good one, man. That solves a lot of problems. Take your great sword here, sir.
Yeah.
Monk, what is your favorite scent?
My favorite scent has got to be freshly baked peanut butter cookies.
It's a good one.
Oh, that is a good one.
Peanut butter cookies are yummy.
Yeah.
Paladin, who is your favorite villain?
That's an unfair question. Can I list my top 1050?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can list as many as you'd like. You have the floor.
Awesome. I would have to say my favorite villain of all time is Skeletor from He-Man and the Master Universe.
That is a good one.
Pretty much universally, all the Skeletor incarnations that we have had in all of the different series of He-Man, I think Skeletor really embodies the true villain that all GMs aspire to. Constantly coming up with amazing plans and constantly failing, but trying again the next week because one of them's got to work, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. I haven't seen the newest.
The new one.
Yeah, I want to.
Which one are you talking about? The new one or the new one? There's the not Jack Black. There's Revelations, which is the adult new one, and then there is the animated new one as well, which is supposedly for kids, but is better than other ones. I think.
I was
have
thinking of
not
the one
seen
that was
either
on,
of them, so I'm gonna have to get caught up.
American Netflix, the animated one. With,
I really enjoyed it when I was growing up, man. That was my jam.
Yeah,
absolutely. So if you look at the two, they're both on Netflix. Revelations is on Netflix as well as the animated He-Man one. They both are telling the same story. They're both doing it in very different ways. And I think that the animated one gets the universe from a world setting, gets it so much better than anything that we have seen before. I think it really takes what we got from the 80s and goes, this is what it should look like, folks. And you're going, yes, that is exactly what it should look like. Anyway, that's just my personal opinion.
I'm gonna have to call my mom and see if she still has my He-Man blanket. There we go. I'll whip out my He-Man sleeping bag from back in the day. It was glow in the dark. It was so cool. Put that down in the living room. I'll eat some cereal. It'll be great. All right, back to the question, Steve. Come on. Ranger, what is your favorite animal?
My favorite animal... again, this is a tough one. I would say the Dachshund. It's a dog.
Beautiful.
But
absolutely.
It's
they're
definitely
wonderful.
a species.
All other animals are
Vicious
garbage
little
now.
things.
That is official and has been.
There we go. Dachshunds. Yeah, we call them carpet crocodiles.
We have a set of blanket sharks, which are ferrets.
Yeah, blanket sharks. They're
we understand.
trash weasels.
Okay, Rogue, what is your favorite trope?
My favorite trope is got to be all orcs sound like they've got big teeth and are from England.
That is a good one.
Yep.
Sorcerer, what is your favorite magical setting?
My favorite magical setting?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Discworld. Not even a question.
Yeah, the best answer. You know what? The entire podcast is now going to be about Discworld. Forget the rest of the questions. We'll just talk about that for the remainder of the time.
Speaking of Discworld and RPGs, we still haven't played the Discworld GURPS game.
I have not played the Discworld GURPS.
I haven't either. I must admit, I'm very intimidated to do that. I think
same. GURPS is really intimidating.
Not so much GURPS, more just the setting. So, like any setting, right? If you play Star Trek or Star Wars or Discworld, the setting only really comes alive if your whole group is on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
And if I play Star Trek, I get way too nerdy. I am a gigantic Star Trek fan. And so unless I am playing with other gigantic Star Trek fans where we can argue about the difference between a multispectral scan and a quantum phase scan, for example, I don't have fun. I would be worried with Terry Pratchett. It would be the same thing. It's like, I know this world so well that whoever's running it or whoever's playing in it has to know it equally as
God
well.
help them. Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, that's why before I play a vanilla Good Society game, I have a 30-minute PowerPoint presentation about the fashion of Regency England and the etiquette that you should follow.
Hey, you're not coming in my game and ruin it. See, I had that problem when we did Star Wars. I enjoy Star Wars somewhat, but I was playing with a group of like super nerds who were really into Star Wars, and I pulled my name off of a soda can. It was an ingredient in Monster, and I was like, yeah, that's fine, that's a name. And they're putting like actual thought, and I was like, shit, I feel so bad, guys. I'm sorry. I'm bringing your game down here. I'm just. I've got
the next one.
Yes.
Warlock, what is your favorite horror story?
Ooh, my favorite horror story. Oh my goodness, the name has just gone out of my head. I'm not a huge fan of horror to begin with. Misery.
Ooh, that's a good one. Misery. Yeah. What an exciting Stephen King novel.
Absolutely.
Did you see the Castle Rock? It was on Hulu. It was based on Stephen King. It had like a prequel to Misery in it.
Really?
Yes.
No, I have not seen that. I will now look for that.
So it's very heavily steeped in Stephen King lore, and it was very enjoyable. The third season, I think, is the one where she's in it, and it was just it was fun. It was a very fun watch, and I hope they continue with that. But Steven, come on, stop. It's supposed to be a quick dozen. Come on, Steve. See, this is the problem. I shouldn't write fun questions because immediately I want to be like, oh, let's talk about that, Steve. I should have gone with the yes or no questions. I think that because we did that with a different set, and I think that yes or no might be the best option. Wizard, what is your favorite school of magic?
My favorite school of magic. I have to say evocation. And that's only because that was the first school of magic I ever played as a character. I played an evoker in second edition. You could choose a school of magic, and you had to forswear other schools of magic, so you just couldn't cast spells from other schools in that system. And evocation was the one. Fireball and all those kind of wonderful things.
I was going to say, I think 3.5 still had that mechanic for a while there. I don't know.
Yes. Yes, I think so. Fifth edition, I don't think you have to. Fifth edition, you can cast from any school. You just don't. You don't get the penalty of not being able to touch any one school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of cool. Kind of on the topic of magic, and just because Steve has done this so many times with all of these questions, what is your favorite? I'm going to use the phrase magic system. So kind of like how in like the Earthsea books they use true names. What's your favorite? Like magic system.
I think the one that I really liked, because I thought it made a lot of sense, was the one that David Eddings and his wife came up with for a series called The Belgrade and the Malorian, which I'm trying to think now of the original titles of those books, because there were 5 books in each one. The Belgrade is made up of 5 books, and it tells the journey of this young sorcerer called Belgarath, who grows up and takes on his destiny and that sort of thing. And there it was a counterweight. So if you tried to move a rock, you had to find something that was heavier than the rock, and then you acted as a fulcrum for that to then happen. So it was magic, but there were consequences. So if you tried to, you could utter the word that would cause someone to cease to exist, but you would also cease to exist. Or at least you would cease to exist, not them, because there's nothing of comparison from a magic perspective except for yourself. So you cease to exist first, and then the spell doesn't work. So I really like that system from David Eddings. Yeah,
I really like that. I like when magic really has physical consequences. Like law of equivalent exchange from Full Metal Alchemist, or with it's escaped my brain. So
I hate that when it happens. It's like, my brain, you know this, but you're not going to tell me, are you? And the brain's like, nope.
Where are the names? Yeah, but no, that's really interesting. I like that.
The magical question that you just asked was actually what I was going to ask instead of one of the ones that we had. No, not School of Magic. Instead of the favorite magical setting. I like that one a little more. I think we'll stick with the one that you had. I'll switch it out.
Cool. I'm glad that I'm better than you.
I'm not denying that fact. Stop calling me out, man. I don't understand. Guy doesn't know that we are terrible at our jobs. Everyone listening knows. They expect this level of nonsense.
I get you.
So we have exhausted all of our questions. So this is the part where we ask you, Guy, to just tell all of our listeners where they can find your stuff. Obviously, things that you are currently working on that you're excited about and that you want them to look at, and all of that good stuff.
All right, absolutely. So the easiest way to track us, because we started in an age when social media was still relatively new, so we didn't get to have one handle to rule them all. We have different handles everywhere because, it's too late now. So the best and easiest way to track us is to head on over to our website, which is www.greatgamemaster.com. And that will link you through to Twitter and all of our social media if you are a social media person. We know a lot of people aren't, so we also have a Discord server, and that's discord.gg/greatgm. And that server has got thousands of people there who think and hopefully enact what we talk about on the YouTube channel. And of course, if you head on over to youtube.com/howtobeagreatgm, you'll find all of our YouTube videos. I think we're actually at the point where if you just type in Great GM into YouTube, will pop up there somewhere. You'll see my bearded face coming up in a thumbnail, I'm sure, somewhere along the lines. And so that's where you can find us. And all of our books are available for purchase from our website. And our latest Kickstarter, which is the Practical Guide to Becoming a Great GM, is currently on Kickstarter. And if you just Google or just search for Practical Guide, will pop up.
We'll have links down in the doobly-doo.
There we go. Absolutely. So yeah, that's what we're busy with currently.
Well, thank you so much for sitting in with us for a little while and doing these interviews and being amazing.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for the community. You are an absolute legend, sir.
Well, my absolute pleasure. Thank you guys for doing the podcast.
Thank you.
I don't know why we're being thanked. You've not listened to the podcast. Our fans know. We don't deserve thanks.
So until next time, everybody,
keep an ear out for those echoes of hope.
Yeah.